If you've ever done a majority of the DPS in a Pug Kreglorn trial, or you've scraped your fallen teammates off the floor more times in that one dungeon run than you've changed your underwear all year, then you've experienced what gamers refer to as carrying. How's that back feeling? Like it's gonna break from all that carrying, perhaps? Well, wouldn't it be nice if you got paid for your efforts so that you could at least afford those hospital bills? America be like. Fortunately, on ESO, there's a market for that, and a pretty lucrative one. There's a wide assortment of reasons why someone may be interested in buying a carry in ESO. You've got your humble gear carries, which are often purchased by players that just need some gear from a dungeon or a trial for a build, and aren't keen on the notion of joining and progging PvE content to attain it. There's skin carries, bought by more show-offish gamers that couldn't give two shits about actually playing the game. They just want to look fly as fuck in their gold and silver trial skins. Then there's achievement carries, bought by players that are looking for gear or achievements or items that are locked behind achievements, and don't expect to ever be proficient enough to earn the rewards that a trial bestows upon completion themselves. We also can't forget about experience carries, oftentimes bought by people looking to power level an alternate character or grind CP. There are also carries that straight up violate the terms of service because they require someone else logging into your account to complete content for you. Man, there's a kind of carry for every kind of D&D alignment, it seems. Most carries involve an individual paying an agreed upon sum of gold that is then split among party members. Those party members are responsible for completing some kind of content for the player that bought the carry. Oftentimes, the carry buyer's character just lies dead in a dungeon or a trial, while the carry sellers complete the task that they were paid to do. Although sometimes, carry buyers enjoy participating in the content as well, especially if the buyer's in a predicament where they aren't able to readily raid for one reason or another. Heck, I almost bought a VAS hard mode carry myself one time, because all the groups that I knew that were running VAS were either not good enough to get it clear after so much time had passed, or they were good, but they refused to take a stamina character into the trial. Felt bad, man. Despite being able to carry my weight and not really die in VAS, it took me almost 2 years before I managed to get into a group that accepted me and could prog it without falling apart. So I can totally understand where players are coming from when they consider purchasing carries in this regard. XP carries operate in a similar manner, where an interested player will pay another gamer some gold for their time, and that gamer will take them through content such as the Black Rose Prison Arena in Murkmire or the Skyreach Catacombs in Kreglorn, two well-known XP farming spots. You do gain more XP when you're grouped up with one other person, after all. Some players have even purchased Emperor carries before, where they'll pay a group of Sigma PvPers to essentially carry them through some PvP conquests so that they may receive the Emperor achievement. In this video, we'll be primarily discussing the PvE trial and dungeon carries, as those are the most commonly purchased ones, and subsequently the most commonly debated. Buyer participation or not, the carry sellers are expected to be able to clear the content at hand without any aid from the buyer, which means that the carry sellers have to be incredibly confident and proficient in the kind of content that they're selling carries for. Carry buyers have to pay a chunky sum of gold for these services, after all. Regardless of how you feel about the prospect of buying or selling carries for gold, it is undeniable that partaking in the practice of selling carries is one of the most profitable ventures in the game. For players that are already incredibly proficient in PvE and enjoy PvE content, selling carries is an incredibly enticing endeavor. Why not get paid handsomely for completing the kind of content that you would normally be running anyways when you log on? I mean, come on, that's such an ideal situation. But not every PvE enjoyer is suited to be able to sell a carry. We all know those gamers that can hit 100k DPS on a trial dummy but can't stay alive long enough in actual content to do even half as much. Well-established carry guilds and Discord servers strive to certify only the best players to be able to partake in carry runs, so that they can ensure that a smooth and successful experience occurs for both carry buyer and carry seller alike. While we're on this topic, carries are oftentimes organized through guilds and Discord servers. You may have seen advertisements for these communities and services in-game via zone chat. From what I've seen, people tend to get pretty tilted over these adverts, but more on that later. Speaking of those zone chat advertisements, those are often posted by carry finders. These finders are players that seek to connect interested carry buyers with the carry sellers that they're advertising for. Once they can manage to connect the buyer with the carry selling group, they'll get paid a small commission for hooking the two parties up. Being a carry finder is also a pretty lucrative business, and you don't even necessarily have to be a carry seller yourself yourself in order to partake in this side hustle either. Carry servers probably wouldn't give a fuck whether or not you even have a normal fungal grotto clear. So long as you have speech 100 and can find some buyers willing to drop fat stacks for carries, consider yourself hired. These carry servers, generally speaking, host two kinds of people: players looking to purchase a carry service, and players that are certified or are looking to become certified to be able to sell carries and earn commissions. There are of course carry finders as well, but oftentimes those gamers partake in the carries themselves. You can find the prices for all the different kinds of carries that are available in these servers as well. In order to be certified, carry servers will provide you ranks depending on your performance, which can be verified by your ESO logs, as well as by showcasing impressive achievements, such as trial trifectas. These ranks are assigned per role, so if you were to get God Slayer on a tank, you would be able to attend and earn gold from VSS hard mode carries as a tank, and not as a DPS or a healer. Once certified, you may get pinged to be informed that a carry run has been set up. You'll have the chance to sign up for the roster with your role and your class. If you make the roster, you'll get pinged again once the roster is full, you'll group up, you'll run the content, and then you'll collect your gold from the carry leader. Leading a carry isn't all that different than leading any other trial, save for the fact that the leader is also responsible for the collection and distribution of gold. Carry leaders are in charge of receiving the gold from the client before the run, raid leading the content, and then splitting the gold with everyone that attended and participated in the carry. The notion of buying and selling carries has been one that has been heavily debated and passionately argued about in the ESO community, coming in second place perhaps to the whole fake tanking debate. Some players fail to see any issue with the concept of exchanging gold for these services, arguing that the carry buyers are simply proficient in one aspect of the game, making gold, while the carry sellers are proficient in another, dungeon content or trial content or what have you, and the two parties are merely exchanging goods and services. Others have argued that buying carries cheapens the achievements in the game, or that carry buyers may have earned their gold from selling ESO's premium currency, which costs real-life money, crowns, essentially creating a link between real-life currency and receiving an achievement in the game. Sounds like paying to win, eh? And then there's other players that just don't really give a fuck. I've always planned to highlight and discuss every single gold-making endeavor that the Elder Scrolls Online has to offer here on this channel, so that my viewers may be made aware of all the different gold earning possibilities in this game, but I knew that it would be impossible to cover the prospect of selling carries for gold without acknowledging all of the controversy that surrounds it. And what better way to illuminate the community's reaction towards such a lucrative business than by inviting these community members up on stage with me to share their opinions themselves. I recently informed my Discord community that I was in the process of creating this video and that I would very much love to share their input on selling carries for in-game currency. Specifically, I gave everyone the following prompts that they could structure their responses around. I will now proceed to read their takes out loud while this absolute madman carries me through veteran scale color peak, including the final fight on the hard mode difficulty. Yes, I did purchase a carry for the purpose of this video, although I did not drop 7 million on it the way Nephis did. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or tea or Monster Energy, and let's listen to what some of the members of the ESO community have to say about buying and selling carries for gold. We're going to examine these responses on a case-by-case basis, meaning rather than dissecting one prompt at a time and reading everyone's responses to that prompt, I'm going to read the entirety of each person's message to me, or summarize when necessary, since some responses were as long as a master's thesis. God damn! This will allow us to have all of the relevant context when pondering each individual person's perspective on this topic. I will also index each response in this video for easy navigation. You can sort through responses by clicking on the timestamps in the description, or by clicking on the video's progress bar. Do be mindful of the fact that these lovely gamers may see things differently than you on account of your differing experiences in ESO. These are opinions after all, so while it's completely understandable to disagree with any of them, please be kind in the comment section should you choose to articulate your disagreement. So I received an assload of responses, and while I'd very much love to read out everyone's answers, I fear that I'd be here all day and all night. So what I've done is compiled a handful of them to best represent the most reoccurring points that were made. If you're interested in reading more of the takes on this matter, as well as reading the entirety of the messages that I'll be reading here, since I will be summarizing some of these responses, I'll include everyone's unedited responses in the Tamriel Trade Secrets article that accompanies this post, which I'll link in the comments section. I do want to say thank you to everyone that shared their opinions with me. I read all of them and took everything into account when forming the previous segment. Alright, without further ado, let's see what you guys had to say about selling carries for gold. The first carries surprised me up to the point that I recorded the run because I thought it was a scam. It was so much gold for not a lot of work, but the requirements were really high. If you're committed and if you have a lot of free time, you can make lots of money and assure good spots in the most profitable carry runs. The requirements are very high though, usually trifecta and very clean logs or 95 to 100k DPS for DDs. And if you screw up, you're going to be frowned upon, even if it's a simple wipe. The runs need to be very clean, even if RNG isn't on your side. There's a lot of money involved and no mechanism to tell whether the person selling a carry is legit or not. It's mostly the fear of the unknown, but from what I've seen, the people that buy carries are never disappointed. One issue I see personally is the curated loot system. Carry players usually have the essential items collected, and that makes them drop less valuable pieces, unless they have all of them, or they're a filthy server transfer like me. For cosmetics and titles, I don't see much wrong with it. Lots of other gamers do it. However, it can mean plebs can lie their way into vet content. I bought a VCR +3 because I had a kid and no more time to tick it off my list. It was one of my last hard modes needed before Rock Grove came out. I have once and it was quick and pro. I used one more carry from One More Pulls server. I haven't heard too much to be honest. I feel it's a reward for being elite at the game. The carriers put hours into getting good, so it's a nice way that they can be rewarded in my opinion. When it comes down to how do I go about making the most gold, which is something a lot of people find themselves asking at some point, the best methods will always be 1. Selling carries, and 2. Flipping. Buying a carry can be a great option for a variety of reasons. I think the main reason, in my personal experience, is the group requirements. A player may be able to hit a certain amount of DPS needed for a run, but finding a suitable group of 3 to 11 other players who are also able to clear the run can be more challenging and time-consuming. So a simple option is to buy a carry. Other players may be after fashion items like skins and titles and whatnot. Personal opinion? A player who can't pull 80k DPS shouldn't be left wanting for trial rewards. Making gold can be easier for some than parsing 80k, so they can simply buy a carry. Yes, I've personally spent upwards of 100 mil on carries, for myself, friends, and a couple times as a way to do Twitch giveaways for skins. The runs I purchased for myself have all been for skins or personalities. My experience with carries has always been pleasant. I attribute this primarily to my choice in carry guilds. I've strictly only ever bought from one guild. They've always provided the absolute best service, overall prices, and the people there are super friendly. I've joined some carry runs, simply as a fill, and my experiences have always been wholesome. I've never been one to consistently sell carries for gold. My brain simply cannot handle that type of monotony in terms of running PvE content. The real meat and potatoes, as it were. I would personally say there's more controversy surrounding the buying of carries, more so than the selling of them. In the end, everyone loves to make the gold, but when it comes to how other players spend their gold, judgment tends to get passed very frequently. I've personally seen a lot of toxicity in non-carry trial servers when someone mentions buying a carry. People can say some nasty things about someone buying a carry. It gets worse when you see the outright hypocrisy of some players who themselves sell carries, saying things like, "I would never respect someone who buys a carry." Well then, why are you facilitating the trade? A line of reasoning I've heard before is that buying a carry for the purpose of cosmetics or titles devalues the efforts others have put into running a prog of that content. I earned my skin the right way, you paid for yours type of mentality. On the surface, this is somewhat understandable if egotistical. My response to this has always been, what is stopping the player buying this carry from running a prog themselves in the future? There are so many reasons why a player does anything in life. Not everyone has the time in life to prog trifectas. Why should they be denied access to the nice cosmetics awarded from that content? On the other hand, some players are more casual. Should the casual players be denied nice skins because they aren't committed to farming the gear and parsing enough to be endgame content capable? So if you don't mind me interjecting for a moment, I actually just wanted to add to a point that this gamer touched on concerning the whole "I earned my skin the right way" comment. This is probably the most popular criticism that I have personally heard in my previous ESO social groups. Ironically enough, the kind of people that would gravitate towards backing this criticism were the kinds of people that high-key got carried through content themselves without having to pay a dime. At least some people are self-aware enough to offer up a sum of gold to be carried, no? Anyways. Cool if people want to. I can see the appeal on both sides. It's a great gold making opportunity, and you can get skins and the like for those who wouldn't otherwise be able to. No, I personally stay far away from it. While I'm cool with people buying carries if they wish, I try to stay away from it myself. I'm in quite a few trial-focused Discord servers, and they often have a tag system to show which vet trials, hard modes, and so on people have done, which, aside from the bragging rights, helps show one's level of trial experience when signing up for groups. I feel that if I were to ever buy a carry, I would lose standing in these groups. Suddenly, whatever run I bought wouldn't be a real clear, and I'd have to jump through more hoops to prove whatever runs I wanted tags for in the future weren't ones that I bought. This isn't really an issue for someone who doesn't plan to get into running these trials consistently, but with my being in these kinds of groups and seeing the meaning these trial tags have, I understand why someone might have disdain for those who buy carries. It's just two different mindsets in my opinion. One group cares immensely about clearing each thing on your own merit, and each clear being a badge of honor, almost, while the other doesn't really care at all and just wants the cool Dramathra skin or whatever else, and those mindsets end up clashing. This gamer explains in detail their experience with purchasing a Sunspire run on console that I've excluded from this segment of the video to be mindful of its runtime. As I stated earlier, if you're interested in reading the entirety of these takes, I'll have them all posted in a Tamriel Trade Secrets article that I'll have linked in the description. My experience with buying and selling carries comes from buying a skin run on Xbox. The people I bought the carry from didn't ask much of me. They had dedicated people to run the important mechanics, and all I had to do was follow direction where needed. I made sure to help with damage because regardless if I was paying, I knew I wanted to help. I've never been part of one of those carry teams myself. I assume they expect a certain damage output from you, and I just never had the confidence in my DPS to try joining. Not to mention I never really stuck around in a guild long enough to even be considered for something like that. I can understand why there are people out there who find the practice of buying or selling carries controversial. To some, it may look like carry sellers are taking advantage of players' lack of confidence in their own skills, wanting to make a good chunk of change off of it. And to many players, learning that someone's bought a skin run or something similar will probably make them think that they're lazy, not wanting to do the content, or just looking for a quick way to get bragging rights. As far as my opinion on these buying and selling of carries, I think they'll be around regardless of whether people agree with it or not. If there's a way to make money off of other people, then it'll exist, just like it does in real life. It's sad to think about, but yeah, I don't judge anyone who sells these runs, or buys them either. My advice to people buying it: if you can, make sure you run with people you know, or maybe even try to get acquaintance with the team who's planning to carry you. But please, never feel pressured to buy those carries. Yes, the content in ESO is difficult, and it's easy to want to pay for it and get it over with, but I believe everyone can get to a point where they can run those trials and challenges without having to pay for them. DPS doesn't usually matter in these cases, although it helps. For things like this, it's all about mechanics. Take the time to learn them, run with people who are willing to have patience with you, and then take those mechanics at your own speed and you'll do as good as any high-ranking CP person out there. I'm perfectly fine with it. Good way for guilds to make money, and it helps casual players get better gear. It might be less necessary if they added a trial or arena finder to the game, but right now it's hard to find groups for certain content you might need to run for the gear. Yes, once. Nobody in my guilds or zone chat was willing to run Vet Fangler with me, and I really needed the monster helm, so I gave in and paid for a run. It was quick and easy, and the runners were super nice. I do not, but like I stated before, I think it's a good gold-making tactic for those that do, and plenty of people appreciate the help, whether they're willing to admit it or not. Certain players think that being carried doesn't mean earning the gear for yourself, and because of how crowns work, you can technically buy golds that is used for these runs to get gear. Some people might see it as pay to win, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. Also, I know a lot of people who have bought carries, and I think it's common. I just think too many people are ashamed to admit it. I'm not. Thought I'd give you a newcomer, 6 months, perspective on carries. I personally don't have any issues with it and have seen it in other games as well, in particular those that don't have matchmaking, like Destiny raids. This can be for a variety of reasons. Gatekeeping is one I'm aware of, where groups will not let you in a raid because you don't have the right gear. The catch is that the gear they want you to have is from doing raids. Other groups only want people who are experienced, so they don't want to go through the time it takes being a Sherpa for new players. Perhaps the person wanting to pay for the carry also may feel better doing a run in that manner, since they won't feel pressured to perform well and face toxic people in the raid community if they mess up, causing wipes. That being said, I've found that the ESO community members I've encountered and guilds I've joined are really friendly peeps, and outnumber the less desirable members of the ESO player base. I feel if someone puts themselves out there and joins some groups, then they shouldn't have any trouble getting some good folks to do some endgame activities with them. So I think selling and buying a carry could be a decent way to make gold for the guilds and the guild only, but nowadays the prices are awful. For example, the other day I saw a VCR +3 for 12 million gold. I mean, on ESO you can run a trial over and over again if you want to. I don't think selling my house for a trial that takes less than 2 hours to complete is worth it. In ESO, I've never been a part of a guild that sells runs. I did it on another MMO and honestly, I just felt bad doing it. To me, this is player exploitation, in a way. It kinda sucks to see more and more of them. There are so many other ways to make gold in ESO. This type of stuff doesn't encourage players to create a guild and try to be better. It's bad. That being said, it is your gold. You do what you want with it. It's simply my opinion. I don't have to tell you how to spend what you've earned. I think it's a good way to earn gold. It's difficult to do well, but if you're investing a lot of time to do endgame content, why not try to sell some carries? I've never bought a carry because I want to run this kind of content with my friends or my guilds, and I like to see my progression. I never participate in this kind of business because my laptop is a potato, but if I could have a better PC, I would definitely try to sell some carries. Maybe it's because most people can't understand all the work that carries require, and people think it's expensive, but this is simply another way to earn gold. Another thing is that there are some carry groups that heavily increase the prices of their carry runs a lot, so these kinds of people could ruin the reputation of carry sellers. When I've been part of progression groups, the main goal was to improve team cohesion and achieve something as a group. Something like a skin at the end of a difficult trial was awesome, but mostly a bonus to the sense of accomplishment. I'm unbelievably proud of my first progression group finally finishing VAS +2. It was a grueling 10 weeks that involved creating and leveling another character to help increase our chances. I rock that skin on my Argonian tank and I love it, but I get more joy in conveying the experience to friends and guildies. Not everyone has the time or energy to spend weeks or months growing with the group. Cosmetics or gear shouldn't be gated from someone more willing to spend gold for help than time and energy they don't have. Carries are a great resource provided by the community. Hi, it's me again. This take is hitting pretty close to where I stand on this matter. I figured it'd be worth mentioning so that you are aware of any bias that could be apparent in my efforts to communicate this topic to you all. I don't really give a damn what people choose to spend their ESO currencies on. I don't see how that's any of my business. Blow it all on Argonian ERP for all I care. But I will say that progging difficult content with a group of friends on ESO has yielded some of the best experiences of my ESO career. That feeling that Pop mentions when you finally achieve what you've worked so hard to attain feels so damn good. It's a shame to think that some people would deny themselves of that feeling by just outright buying a carry instead. But I understand that some people may have to because of time commitments or what have you. So basically what I'm trying to say is, sex is cool and all, but have you ever successfully progged a VDLC trial in ESO? Epic gamer moment. Alright, now back to the community takes. Completely fine. It's your own choice whether or not you participate in such an act. People react like it's committing a crime. Meanwhile, it's pretty much the same as selling crowns for in-game gold. You're speeding up a process for convenience sake. You as a carrier are giving players that either aren't as skilled as yourself or don't have the time commitment to achieve something in the game and would rather open their wallets to achieve it. Yes, for an achievement or skin. Why? Because I'm not that good at PvE at all. I'm more of a PvPer market type of player than a hardcore PvEer, and skins are completely cosmetic, which by the way, let's remind everyone, fashion's endgame. Sort of. I've carried a couple players to Emperor, which was some sort of carry. Takes some dedication and planning, but it's the same story as for me with PvE. Those players absolutely despise or suck at PvP, but still wish to have the cosmetic rewards of becoming an Emperor, which is fair. We can all help each other achieve something. Achievements, etc. have a sense of accomplishment, and when you pay for a carry, you get rid of those bragging rights. Sadly enough, there are some people that purchase those carries and start bragging or lying about the achievements. Meanwhile, they haven't done anything special for it, but empty their wallets for it. It diminishes the accomplishment or value of said achievement in some way. I don't like the idea of a carry, but I can't say it's wrong. It just leaves a bad vibe. I've never bought a carry, never participated in a carry run. Controversy exists primarily due to bad apples of this practice. The people who want the bragging rights with none of the work. I do feel it's different in ESO versus, say, Apex Legends. People pay in Apex Legends for someone to carry them, boost them, to a rank of play they are not, so they can have the badges and bragging rights that come with it. ESO can have that depending on what you're being carried in. If in ESO you know you don't have the right gear yet but really want to run something, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with paying someone with gold to help you carry you through that content, especially if you're a completionist or trying to get some rare items. I do feel it should be less controversial in ESO, but more than likely there's a lot of bad apples ruining the experience, or perhaps just the perception of the issue at hand. When I first joined, I definitely found it a bit weird that people sold carries. It seemed like exploiting new players. After playing for a while, my opinion changed a lot. It became normal, but it took a second. I think it was just like understanding how the game works more, since I was one of those level 20s who grinded Skyreach to CP 160 in a few days. I've bought carries before for Skyreach. Everyone I bought from was extremely nice. I made sure to tip as well, and some of them even declined the tip. I found people practicing for carries and giving me free runs when they were practicing their run to give the best experience to the people who'd be paying for them. I really didn't feel like they were just trying to get money out of me. Before I bought them, I really did think it was weird and exploitative, but I realized it's all just part of the game, to be honest, and people are extremely nice about it. I've been given discounts before too, by some. In terms of trial and dungeon carries, as a newer player, CP265, who hasn't even begun doing Vet DLC dungeons or any trials, I think that paying for carries for actual gear isn't a problem for the game. However, I think it might even cause player burnout. If you play a game and have nothing to grind for and don't know how to do hard content, what are you gonna do with the gear that you get? Cosmetics are obviously endgame, and if you don't get them yourself and know you have an easy way to get them by just paying, what's the point? I have no problems with paying to get a boost. I exchanged some crowns for gold when I played first for some spending money. It's just my viewpoint that paying for content that is difficult to get or grind for could make the game feel stale a lot quicker and increase burnout. In my opinion, carries are fine. They help inexperienced or incapable players by getting the clear and loot, reward skilled players by getting paid, and don't affect everyone else. They usually don't make the leaderboards, lol. I've never bought a carry. I do not currently participate in carries to make gold. I think the main reason it's controversial is some players feel they earned their clears, gear, titles, skins, etc. themselves, while others can simply pay to be brought through the content. But honestly, I don't know too many people against it. Most of my friends and guildmates don't really care what you spend your money on. I think provided someone is good at carrying, I see no ethical issues with buying and selling carries. And I think there are plenty of people who either don't make many friends or don't want to impose on any friends to carry them for free. Time is money in everything, so if you've got two parties willing to participate in a paid carry, I see no issue. I have, in another guild. I did 1 hour of BRP. My experience was quite unusual because I actually did it as part of an experiment to compare different XP farming methods, so I did it with suboptimal gear. My personal experience was great, perhaps because it was just with a guild member. We jumped into Discord, he spent a few rounds explaining to me what he wanted me to do, and then blitzed through it. I messed up a couple times and he had no problem with that. Great overall experience. I would, but I'd be paranoid about demanding money up front and then sucking at doing the carry, or requesting the money only at the end and getting shafted by the person I'm carrying. I think same with perhaps buying and selling crowns, there's always going to be distrust in any financial transaction on a video game where there's payment for a service rather than a good, as there are few means to ensure that the other party will perform their part. A secondary factor may be that, a lot of the time, it's going to be difficult to know whether the service will be good, i.e. if the person carrying is any good or if they suck, until after it's happened. I've never paid for a carry, even though my friends on PS4 who sold them years ago offered me a free VMA death free run and another very cheap VMAL skin carry. I personally wouldn't want the achievement or skin or gear if I didn't earn it. That said, I don't begrudge people for selling carries. They worked very hard to master endgame content, and running trials is an expensive hobby between spell and weapon power pots, high-end food, and consistently keeping the latest meta sets golded out. Now that I've started over on PC, work a whole lot more than I used to, and have degenerative multiple sclerosis that affects my brain-to-hand signals and coordination, I better understand people who pay for carries as well. I'll never be able to get Godslayer or Stormproof on my own with my disabilities. I still won't pay for them as a point of pride, but I get it. All that said, there is one instance of paid-for carries that really irks me, and that's the Emperor carries / PvP AP boosting. I don't understand all the intricacies of how that's done, but from what I've heard, it's shady, and can involve paying allies and other alliances to participate. In that case, I would consider it flat-out cheating. PvE carries don't give you an unfair advantage of other players, although I'm sure many would argue it does via the gear you can get, but it doesn't lock out other players from getting the same achievement. I have lots of thoughts about carries. On one hand, I certainly don't begrudge people who sell carries. I have lots of friends who do this, though I've never done it myself. Everyone needs gold for different reasons and has different skills and interests to help them make gold. Everyone should be able to make gold from doing content that they enjoy. I don't really think, from the seller's perspective, that this is any different from someone spending a lot of time and energy on research and leveling up crafting so that they can sell crafted gear. On the one hand, there are the buyers. There are lots of buyers who just aren't interested in vet trials or DLC dungeons. They're more interested in RP, or housing, or fishing, or questing, or whatever. Especially the RP people. I can see them wanting specific skins or personalities that are perfect for their character, but are unattainable. Maybe there's something similar in the Crown store, but now that involves spending real-life money. And carries aren't cheap. If someone's earned enough gold through farming and fishing and crafting and housing to buy a carry so their character can have the prettiest pony, then I don't see the issue with that either. If you're just not into trials and dungeons, it sucks that so many of the best dyes and skins and cosmetics are locked behind content you have no interest in progressing towards. And it gives you a different goal: raise enough gold through activities you do enjoy to pay for the carry, because like I said, carries aren't cheap. So this is all my pro-carry stance, but I do think it gets complicated in two ways. Not everyone earns gold through in-game means. I know one person who spends an amount of money I literally cannot fathom on buying crowns, which he then sells for gold. If people like that buy carries, then they're paying human money for carries, which seems squicky to me. Like, if you're going to spend human money on it, just buy crown store stuff. I feel like that's what cheapens it for me. The knowledge that people like this guy are out there just throwing real human money at stuff that would normally be a serious grind in game. And two, people who are interested in harder content but pay for carry so that they can have titles or other status symbols that they haven't actually earned. Because most carries are extremely protective of buyer identity, there's no way of knowing if someone earned their title or was carried. I've met plenty of big ego people in the trial community. A guy I was in a prog with got kicked when he got caught photoshopping the combat metrics for his parse. When so many groups require clears to join, I can easily see people paying for carries so that they can show off their pithkas to get a spot. Honestly, knowing that carries exist make me so wary of people I haven't run content with. It makes me feel like a title means nothing, because anyone could have paid for that title if they had enough gold. And then when you combine these two, the guy I mentioned, the one who bought so many crowns and has been a bazillionaire since before he hit CP, he's also really into trials and titles and skins and mounts and status symbols. It makes me not believe that he's earned any of it, even though maybe he did. Just knowing it's possible that he bought those titles makes me doubt him, and that makes me feel like a bad person, not trusting that a friend really did earn their clears. Anyways, the concept of carries makes total sense to me from both a buyer or a seller standpoint. I totally get why they exist, and I don't begrudge the role players who just want a glowy skin or the elite groups who need to pay for their potions. But the fact that they exist casts an unfortunate shadow over all accomplishments in the game. In the end though, I guess the only person who really matters is yourself. I get titles and achievements for me, not for showing off to other people. Some of the hardest achievements I've accomplished don't even have any tangible reward. I spent forever progging this one stupid 5-point dungeon achievement just because I didn't have it. Literally no one will ever know that I've ever completed it. There's no way of showing it off, but I felt so accomplished when my group finally pulled it off. So I just have to try to remember that achievements are for me, and other people buying titles that I worked hard for doesn't cheapen what I accomplished, because that's not the point. Alright, and on that positive note, that will conclude the community feedback segment as well as the rest of the video. Not only will everyone's responses, even those that I did not include in this video, be posted in the accompanying TTS article, but I also have a brief interview with a carry seller from EU on there as well, so you should definitely check it out. Now that everything's been said and done, where do you stand when it comes to buying and selling carries? I'd be interested to hear what you think in the comments below. If you're someone that's very experienced and affluent in PvE content and interested in selling some carries to earn some gold yourself, or if you're someone that's interested in purchasing a carry, I will leave some useful links in the description that may be able to help you. If you stuck around to the very end of this video, I'm impressed. I hope that it was resourceful, and maybe it provided you with some food for thought. Thanks again to everyone for submitting their takes. Thank you to my YouTube members for making videos like this possible. It really took a number on my storage space. And thank you to all of you for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.